They are in date.
Hi. You told me it was charged.
You see it? Yeah,
Hello, have people reconnected or we're still waiting for someone?
Okay, so they are connected. Let me just mute all because we can start sharing in the mobile money. Okay, so you can you can share the screen.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can get you. Just slideshow.
Okay. So I believe this is what a farmer is supposed to take note of. So collecting data and making notes is very, very important in fish farming if you really want to know the progress and where you are at the moment. So like I earlier alluded, as a farmer, let's please have a notebook that we record our daily feed intakes, that we record our growth, that we record mortalities, the FCR with the calculations given, and also the feed. So writing down essential farming aspects allows you to, so these are the aspects that you are going to benefit if you are good at record keeping. So it will enable you to compare between production cycles. You're able to know which cycle was doing okay and which cycle did not do okay. And you're also able to make adjustments to see where you can put it correctly in order for you to achieve. And then it also gives you an insight in the profitability of your business. So you're able to know how much you're spending on feed and how much you are also getting after the resale. You're also able to know, in short, you're just able to know your net profits, which are very cardinal in running a business. As we all know, we are going into fish farming, some as a hobby, but I'm sure most of us is for profit making. So this also gives you an opportunity to come to dedicated improvement goals. So you can say this cycle, let's say I had issues with oxygen levels. I had a lot of mortalities. What do I do in the next cycle? Okay, let me incorporate maybe aerators, or let me have a steady flow of water. So the next point is that it allows you to forecast performance based on experience. So you're able to forecast, say, okay, this is what I'll need for the next cycle because you were keeping records. So this is also one interesting part. I'm sure not most of you have heard of AQUASIM. So as Scratching Zambia, we are coming up with a software. It's actually in its trials. It's called AQUASIM. So AQUASIM will be available. We haven't yet discussed to which market it will be, but basically it will be for our clients who want to try out. So AQUASIM is a mobile application that will enable you to simulate, forecast, and benchmark. So this is our collection of models, methods, and tools to enable you to simulate your growth cycle, forecast, and benchmark for fish and shrimp. So some of the questions that this application will enable you to answer will be, At what date will your fish be at, let's say maybe 500 grams? How many kg do I feed next month? How many tons will I harvest? What is my most productive pond? When to change pellet sizes? And also my growth compared against the industry. So it will be an application that you'll be able to feed into information, say stocking rate, temperatures, the size you stocked in your fingerlings at, and then it will be able to give you the following information that I just mentioned. So we have done trials with our R&D center, our research center, using AQUASIM. So it was a success. And recently we've just put it on, we've just been doing trials to put it as a mobile application where you can use your phone or your tablet to enable farmers forecasts. So it's just an easier way that Scrating wants to help out its clientele. So to when it will be available for the market, these issues will be communicated, and to who it will be available to. But for those that are going already into business and you want to try out our application, you can also contact me and I can see if it is possible for us to try it out with your farm. So basically, this is it about feed management. I didn't want to stress much on other feeding aspects as to calculating FCRs and everything else, because I've been following the training, and it has been addressed by my colleagues. So, but if we have questions pertaining to that, I'm also able to answer. Otherwise, the calculations are the same. So apart from this, I think I also wanted to stress a point here. I think the next training that Mr. Mkonda is going to have, I'll stress more on nutrition. What we'll do for now after this session, I'll send through some documentation and some literature that you can go through in the group, and then we'll be able to be on point for the next training. At least we'll have rough ideas of what will be talked about. But as I was in the field today, there's something that I noticed. I noticed some clients were actually substituting chicken feeds for fish feed because it's readily available. Yeah. So this, I just came up with this chart in the last minute just to show the wrong practice by farmers to feed fish on poultry feed. So you can see in the table, there are different requirements that the fish has under into play. We've got things like you see the methionine there, they are different. So the ones that are highlighted there in red, you can see those are some of the limiting requirements that will not give you a successful yield if you're using poultry feeds in order to feed your fish. Then in the next one, we're also going to look at the digestive physiology of the fish. So this is basically what happens. It's just an intro to the next sessions that we're going to have and where we are going to start from. So this is basically the process that goes through when the fish feeds on a pellet. So there are some nutrients that are absorbed, and there are some that are undigested nutrients that go directly into fecal loss. The absorbed nutrients, some of them will be retained in the body for use, and some of them will be dissolved losses. So there's also nutrition is actually a huge component in fish farming that would want to focus and stress on. But I thought it wise to begin with the management of feed. I'm going to share this in case I was in a hurry in terms of presentations. We'll share the necessary information so that you can go through it, and also my contacts, so that we are able to assist one another in coming to terms with fish farming. So I think questions. I think the questions can be general that you want to ask, not necessarily about my presentation, but I was just filling in the gap on what wasn't presented. So they can be anything in line with fish farming and not just in line with feed. They are welcome. I think questions can come through if at all there are any contributions as well.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What's a good source? What's a good source of water for the fish pond? And also, I've got two questions. What season is good for fish farming? Cold season, hot season, or rain season?
Okay.
Those two questions are the ones I have.
All right. Okay. So the first one was the last one is to do with seasons. The first one is to do with source of water. Am I right? Okay.
Yes,
So
yes,
source
sure,
of
you're
water
right.
in terms of fish farming. I think source of water in terms of fish farming. You find fish farmers are using water from streams. Borehole water is also okay. What we avoid most of the times is Swasco water because of the chlorine that it contains. But even for some streams we might say the water is good, but some streams are polluted. So those are some of the aspects that you have to look into. But the Swasco water definitely is not a go area because of the chlorine. It will take you a process in order for you to dechlorinate that water. So you can use natural water, which is from the streams, and you can also use borehole water. And in terms of seasons, I think we are aware that tilapia is a warm water species. So it usually thrives during the warm seasons. Hence, if you notice, most people that have been into fish farming and experienced in it would rather they couch their fish not during the cold seasons, and they are harvesting during closer to the cold seasons so that they have rest in between. So I would say the warmer seasons and in warmer areas, that's why you have good yields in terms of tilapia farming. So cold seasons, they don't thrive. We have issues of them feeding less. We have them being prone to diseases such as fungal diseases. Yeah. So I would go for the warmer seasons. Yeah. Okay. Have I answered your question, sir?
Sure. But what about other species? You are only specialized in tilapia?
Okay, so other species that can be cultured, issues to do with catfish. I think Mr. Mkonda is in the best area to advise on other species such as catfish. Personally, I would say I have more experience with tilapia. But I'll send some literature for catfish if anyone is interested during this presentation on the group that we are using to communicate.
Mr. Malao. Hello? Hello?
I can still send some. Even catfish, we have all that literature.
Mr.
Have I
Malao.
answered the question, sir?
Sure, you've answered.
Hello? Yes, sir. Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Malao.
Thank you.
I have a question since you said you can ask general questions.
Yes, we are sharing.
On the cage farming and the pond culture. Yesterday, we did some budgeting, and then for usually this pond culture, we discovered that the cheapest was going to 19,500, that is for a 30 by 30, and then the most expensive going to about 32,500. Now for the cage culture, I think you interact a lot with the farmers. Is it possible to do it on a small scale? For example, in my place in Ndola, where we have some dams that are about 5, they are just dormant like that.
Okay.
Is it possible to do it on not really commercial, but a medium scale farmer? Thank you.
Yes, it's quite possible. It will go with the sizes of the cages. But what I've observed with the farmers that I've been interacting with, and those that are into cage farming and not at a commercial level, they're usually going for the 6 by 6 by 6. I think those are quite, because at the end of the day, the cost of construction is supposed to be economical because you're looking at what you're going to get in. So you're able to do them even at a smaller scale, but I think I would go for a 6 by 6 by 6 meters. I think that one is quite more economical. I don't know if Mr. Roy does also want to help on answering that one. But and in terms of when we go to the dams, have you checked the water quality in the dams How is the water quality? Is it moving water? Is it stagnant water? Is it appropriate for fish farming?
Yes, it is appropriate because there are already some existing species, though on a small, but not that very much. But it's ideal. It's moving water.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, no, it's not just, you cannot, it's not only a matter of doing it on a commercial basis. You can also do it on a small scale, but the size of the cage, like I've said, I think I'm yet to see something smaller than a 6 by 6 by 6 meters.
On the same, what are the requirements in terms of emissions from fisheries or something to do cage farming on the dams?
Okay, I'm not sure on the dams if we still undergo the ZEMA process. Mr. Reid, is it applicable even for the dams?
Yes, when you want to do the cage culture on the dams, you need first, of course, to communicate with the Department of Fisheries, of course, the provincial office. Then ZEMA, of course, depending on the Fisheries Act has the specifications for the systems that have to be that have to comply with the environmental protection. So when you are trying to do the system that you have the yield that may be less than 100 tons per year, you are going to make sure that
Hello, Mr. Reid, are you there?
hello.
Yes, we can get you now.
Yes. So I was saying,
we can get you now.
Okay, I was saying, so the specification is below 100 tons per annum. It has certain documents that has to be done. Then above 100 tons, it also has a specific document that has to be done by ZEMA. Then as you go up, you reach the environmental impact assessment. So the first step would be the Department of Fisheries. Then you go on, because once they give you a go ahead, then you can go and do your assessment.
Thank you.
Then there is another question, Mr. Malaush. Okay, this one, where can one buy the aerators? These aerators, I think we post the suppliers in the group, so they will be able to get it. But the other question says, can you feed fish with pig dung or chicken manure?
Okay, all right. So I think there's been a misconception in terms of integrated fish farming. It's so we call that actually integrated fish farming. So that would be fish come pig. So what really happens is not that the fish is fed on the pig manure. No, what happens is the manure from the pig is used to fertilize the water, and then when the water is fertilized, it will produce phytoplanktons. A boost in phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons, those are the plant matters that are in the water. When you see the green matter, things to do such as algae. Those are what we are talking about, phytoplanktons, which also boost zooplanktons are the animal matters that are found in the water, or microscopic. So really, that's just integrated farming. We're not really feeding the fish on the manure from the pig, no. Then for that one, it's not really, that would say it's at an extensive point, but for you, people that are willing to go into commercial, that's why we have the commercial feeds now. But for integrated, yes, manure is used to fertilize the water, which will bring about the natural foods for the fish itself. Is that answered?
I think maybe just to add on to that, the water also from the ponds can be used to irrigate vegetables and the like. We do that ourselves, and you end up producing very good vegetables organically.
Sure.
I also have a question.
Okay,
Mr. Mara, yes, I'm trying to find out. I heard of 6 by 6. How many fingerlings can you put in that? The 6 by 6.
Come again.
I'm saying in the
you have
6
a pond
by
which is
6 by 6. There was a question on 6 by 6 pond. Now I'm saying, how many fingerlings can you put in 6 by 6?
Oh, you mean in the cages?
No, the 6x6 pond. I'm saying there's
Six
someone
by
who was
6 meter
asking.
pond. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
so I'm
Okay.
saying
So
how many
stocking rates.
fingerlings do you put? Yes.
Okay, the stocking rate for ponds would differ depending on management level and what you are also incorporating. So others would advise you to stock 5 per meter squared. Others would advise you to go for 6 to 7. So personally, I mostly advise my farmers to stock at least at 5 per meter squared or 6 per meter squared. So the simple calculation there would be multiplying the dimensions of the pond. That is 6 by 6 times the stocking rate that you're looking at. Is it 5? So that would be times 5. If it is 6, then you multiply by 6. So that's just basically how you find the stocking rate for the pond, sir.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. I also have a question. Does the depth of the pond have an impact on the yield of the fish?
For the depth, it does have an impact. So when constructing, we actually advise, Mr. Royd, is it 1 meter, 1.1 at the deep end?
1.1, 1.3.
Yeah, because you know what usually happens when the fish is when the pond is very deeper, you have segments in terms of layers. So there's what we call there's stratification. So what happens is the top layer has the most oxygen. The deeper you go, the oxygen reduces. So we advise those kind of measurements because at least there is issues of circulations of oxygen throughout the pond. So the depth would have an effect. So I think the deeper ones would have a negative effect, if especially if the water is not moving and not being refreshed. So you'd have a lot of dead matter at the bottom there, a lot of debris. So it would have an effect, yes.
Okay. All right, sir. I've gotten the point. I also wanted to find out, like yesterday we missed the training for yesterday. So I wanted to find out if you talked about the quotation for what are the requirements, the bore, the what, all those things which are required for someone to set up a fish plant. Fish plant. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I think those ones, Mr. Royd is in the best position to assist you with those because he's into the constructions as well. So he'll be
Okay,
in the best position.
so what is your question again?
I'm asking about the requirements, like what is required for someone to set up a fish pond. Let's say, for example, a 6.6 fish pond.
6 by 6 fish pond.
6 by 6.
What
yes.
we discussed yesterday was that for you to set up a fish pond, first of all you need to have available land. The land should be available. That is going to be used for that. And in most cases, this land should be the land that is not viable for other farming systems. Then you can set up, mark that land for fish ponds. Then you should have water. Water should be there because your fish that you want to keep in that pond, they are not going to be fasting, or they're not going to stay in space. So they will depend on the water. Then you also need resources. Then if you have the money, then you also look at the gradient of the land. How slopey is it, or is it does the land have a sharp slope? So when you look at all those areas, and also the market aspect, because you cannot grow mostly crayfish, plenty of it, maybe to be producing 100 tons of crayfish, when you know that there are very few people who eat that here in Zambia. So you need to look at the market, which people are going to buy your fish. So after you look at that, you are going to consider the budgeting now, what you look at when setting, what you need, the materials you need when setting up that pond. So what you basically require, you need to get into someone who is going to assist you to do the calculation on how much you are going to require to feed the fish. For example, if you want to do a pond that is 6 by 6, there we are talking of the densities or the stocking rates to be somewhere 5 fish going upwards, depending on your level of management. But when you look at the small pond like 6 by 6, mostly that one is just for home consumption and for learning purposes. But if you want to do fish farming as a sustainable business, better start with a pond that is somewhere 20 by 30. They'll give you good yield. Then if you are looking at a 20 by 30 pond, we are talking of if you are stocking the fish at maybe 5 fish per square meter, that is 600 square meter by 5, you are talking of 3,000 fish in that pond. That's what we discussed yesterday. And we're saying, okay, that size of the pond will require on average somewhere 14,500 on feed. Then we are talking of the construction of that pond, the maximum being 7,500. When you come down, then it will be somewhere almost maybe 5,000, depending on the area where you are. But if you're in Lusaka, somewhere near Lusaka, the prices are very expensive. It's very high on the construction of the ponds. So when you look at that, again, you look at that stocking density of 3,000, when you are talking of maybe stocking your ponds in the August, where most of the hatcheries have increased the prices of fingerlings to somewhere minimum 17 ngwe, you will be talking of 2,100 kwacha for the fingerlings. To buy fingerlings, the 3,000 fingerlings. Then you'll be talking of, if you are in an area where there's no groundwater, as said yesterday, where there's no groundwater, you need to put some kind of polythene sheet or polythene material or plastic to cover the pond, which will prevent the excess water loss. Because if you don't have underground water and you don't have plenty of water running, being channeled into your pond area, that means you'll be pumping water using fuel or electricity. That is a cost on its own, which we should avoid. So to reduce that cost, you need to put the plastic. To cover the plastic, the pond should be covered with the plastic, or which is called a pond liner. So now this pond liner also is a material that exists in two common phases that are used in fish farming. There is 500 micron and 250 micron. So now the prices vary. The 500 micron is very durable. If it's UV treated, it will last for at least 10 years plus. But if it's not UV treated, it can last even for 2 years or 1 year and to be done. Then we are also talking of the 250 micron. With that one, the lifespan is short, ranging from 1 year to somewhere 3 years if you use it very well. So the prices also differ. So if you are talking of the 500 micron, for that size of the pond of 20 by 30, you are talking of spending somewhere close to 25,000 as of today with the dollar rate. With the current dollar rate, you are finding at the rate, that rate will take us to somewhere 25,000 kwacha. Then when we come to the 250 micron, to take us to somewhere almost 12,000 kwacha to cover that pond, all of it. So that is it. And in some cases, some suppliers may do or may offer you a service to join, others may not offer you the service to join. So you need to maybe spend some more money again to join the plastic, because it's not going to be a complete tent. So that is the situation that will be there. Then you're going to look at if you are in a place where there's no groundwater or plenty of water, you are going to be pumping water. So you need to include some cost of pumping water. For example, that size of the pond, maybe you may talk of average 2,000 kwacha for buying fuel and pumping water into the pond, the aeration and everything. Then you need to look at labor. So if it's that one pond, it will not be economical for you to employ someone to look after your fish. But if you want to employ someone to be looking after that fish, it's going to cost you somewhere minimum 5,600 to just pay someone who is going to be looking after your fish for a period of at least maximum 7 months. That's what is going to happen there. So when you put all the totals together, you discover that it will cost you close to 28,000, 29,000 to do that kind of a pond when you have plenty of water on the farm. And also it will take you to close to 60,000 if you don't have water, you are just pumping from the bore, from the stream somewhere, then you have bought the 500 micron liner to take you to somewhere almost 50,000, 60,000 to set up a farm and buy feed for the entire life cycle of the fish in the pond until you harvest. And then we are talking of 6 months of the life cycle in the pond. That is basically what we discussed yesterday. That's something that maybe can help you in your planning. Have I touched maybe part of what you were expecting, sir?
Sure. You have really explained it. Sure, sir. I really thank you.
Okay. So this 10 minutes, let us discuss some few questions if you have some questions. Then after the 10 minutes, we start the last presentation.
Mr. Mkonda, sir. The pond lined ponds versus the concrete ponds. Can you explain a bit for us so that we understand the difference?
Okay, pond lined ponds, they are not very durable. They have a lifespan. And this time around, we are saying, yesterday we had a debate to say, how do you know that this line has this lifespan or is UV treated? Because one of the major challenge or one of the major threat of the pond liner is the threat of heat tearing the plastic. So because this plastic is left exposed some parts of it to the sun. So does this plastic have a shield, a protective shield towards that UV ray? So some of the plastics they don't have. So if you are not lucky, you get the material that doesn't have UV treatment or UV shield, you are going to suffer. So now the pond liners, they have a lifespan and they are quite sometimes expensive. But now when you go for okay. Okay. So what I was saying is that the pond liners, they have a lifespan, and they are quite lower on the part of in terms of expenses. When you look at the establishment phase, they are quite lower. But when you look at the concrete ponds are very durable, but they are very expensive. They are very easy to work with. They are smarter to work with, and you find that they can make your work easier. But the only challenge that is there is they are expensive. You need to use the right material. You need to use the right people that know how to build the water systems. That is the best that you can work. So for you to build the concrete ponds, you for example, when you are talking of a pond that is maybe 5 by 5 meters or 6 by 6 meters, that one can even take you close to 30,000 if you are not lucky. And if you are very lucky, it can come even down to 15,000, depending on the cost of the materials. So it is quite expensive to build concrete ponds. So that is what we are talking about. Otherwise, if you want to build concrete ponds, make sure you select your materials very well, and you get your materials from the source that is going to give you the very good quality materials. We have a number of concrete ponds here, and the cost of building them has been very high, but also they have been working very well. They make work very easy because everything becomes like automated. So it's easy to work with concrete ponds.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mkongo, on the liners.
Yes, please.
As people move about in the pond, does it affect the durability of the liners?
Exactly.
How often do you?
For example, like our case here, we get in the ponds every after 3 weeks, every after 1 month, every after 2 weeks, we get in the ponds every time. So the more people, especially, you know, sometimes we have guys that have long nails. So those nails that grow into like into some form of claws, they are a problem. They tear the liner. Sometimes, again, you don't need to allow most of the people to go in the ponds with the gumboots. You know, you may have chest waders, of course, to protect people from some bacteria or some insects in the water. But getting into the pond with the gumboots, you know, they damage a lot, especially in your area where you are, if there are a lot of stones, because it's difficult completely to get rid of the stones from the bottom of the pond once you finish digging the pond. So you're going to have some sharp stones there. So now, if this guy moving with the gumboots steps on the stone, on the part of the liner where there is a stone down, the liner is damaged, and that begins to be the point of leakage. So now that situation affects the fish very much, because once the pond liner is leaking, the growth of the fish is affected. The fish want to grow very uniformly because the nutrients in that pond want to be balanced. The algae want to be balanced. All the ecosystem in that water want to be at its optimum. So the growth of the fish won't be that good. It will be affected in a great way. So the best way to do it, if you want the fish to grow very well, have a pond that is not leaking, have a pond that has maximum water capacity. That's the best. Otherwise, most of the fish will do well when the water level is 1 meter and above, somewhere there. Not very much below a meter, but average a meter, the fish will do very well. So you need to make sure that people don't get in the pond with the shoes, pointed shoes, like the four corner.
Yes, so I've got a question, Mr. Mkonda.
Yes, please.
Where would you advise us to?
Why would I advise you to do what? Hello? Network has pushed you somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm saying.
While we're struggling with network, I would like to learn more about earthed ponds without dam liners. Yes. Talk about the advantages and disadvantages so that we can.
My boss, earthen ponds, they are the cheapest types of ponds you can have, and they'll make your life easier as a fish farmer, because the startup capital is very low, management is very low, running cost of management of the same system is very low. So you find that everything will just be. But Mr. Shawa, we are online. You are calling. You are supposed to be in class. Just a minute. This man is supposed to be in class, but he's calling. Mr. Shawa, you are supposed to be in class. Come back. Okay, come. You'll be allowed now, please. Yes, just come in. He has gone out of class and he is trying to come in. The door is not open. Okay, so we are saying earthen ponds. Are you getting me? Hello, are you getting me, sir? Can you get me, Mr. Guava?
Yes, I'm getting you. Just go ahead, sir. I'm getting you.
Okay, so I was saying earthen ponds, they are the easiest, they're the cheapest ponds that you can have. They'll make your fish farming easier because you don't need the lining. You don't need, if you are using that kind of system, that means you have plenty of water, underground water. So you're not going to require pumping of water. And then mostly you find that these ponds, where labor is cheap, most where you have that kind of land. So even the establishment cost is cheaper. So the fish will just be living in a natural environment, and the growth is faster. The fish in the earthen pond and in the lined pond, in the earthen pond,